due to popular demand, and it's finally here. Of course, I'm joking. I'm gonna make this anyway. This is a two-dimensional bulk storage system. One of the things many people suggested was to make it 1x2 instead of 1x1 for these 2D storages. This one does exactly that. However, not just for fun or for, I don't know, less looking at the floor or whatever people were coming up with. This one does it for massively increased capacity. So it works the same way as the previous one. Use a lever to turn it on and off. Currently it's in the off state. When I turn it on, it unlocks all the hoppers. Remember, this is fully hopper locked. And then you just throw your items up, they travel all the way, and they go over all the filters. This is an alternative design for the filters. This one is less compact than the one I showed in the original two-dimensional storage video, but they are cheaper. They cost one less redstone and one less comparator, and are probably simpler for people to set up. Obviously, the downside is the height difference needs to be bigger, but that's not that big of an issue for this demonstration piece. There were some findings by some people. I'm not 100% sure if it's that true, but there have been reported cases where the item from this dropper shot slightly too much to the left, in this case, out of the powdered snow, and hitting off either to the next hopper or just landed on a block. You can fix it quite easily. In this case, you can straight up use blocks to block this side off, or you can use cobwebs, as I suggested originally, or there are items, or sorry, not items, blocks, like I think glass panes work, barely. Actually, no, they don't connect, never mind. You actually can only use trapdoors then, in that case. I keep forgetting. So if you use a trapdoor, you can open it like this, so it doesn't impede the falling of items from above. I haven't run into this issue. I'll be completely honest. None of the demonstration pieces had this issue, so I'm not 100% sure, but if you want to sleep better at night, have fun with that. And obviously with the trapdoors you can go all the way down if you are really scared. Again, cobwebs in my opinion are easier. Then what is this apparatus here? This is simply a detection I wanted to include. This is possible with all the designs, but I wanted to show it for this one since I've started to make them more and more advanced. What do you do here? When the items fall on the soul sand block, they still get sucked in by the hoppers just fine. You can see it worked perfectly acceptably. The difference is you can then detect them when they land on top of it. So if I would, for example, lock this, or the thing would fill up, what you can do is you can inject an item, and you can see it stays on. So this is a quick, dirty way you can easily check if something is stuck there. You can obviously combine these signals together and just have one lamp at the bottom. I just didn't even bother. So what's the bulk storage part? Because that's the main difference between the other designs. This is a layout I have seen on some bulk storages for some farms. People really wanted to make it for some odd reason. If we look at the layout, separately, what it ends up being is, okay, I'll let off a little. It ends up being something like this. You'll quickly realize why I'm not the biggest fan of this. Basically, every second one, you can have a double chest. Obviously, here on the last one, we need the indicator blocks, but you can remove these indicator blocks and have them on the floor. I just wanted to show this option too. But you can also do it like this. And then you can use repeaters to send power directly into these barrels. Those of you who are thinking while watching this may have already realized the problem with a design like this. Obviously, we only use a barrel instead of a double chest here. So we effectively lose 1/4, almost 1/4, like 20% of the capacity, but we keep the same amount of hoppers in it. That's kind of why I consider this pretty terrible, because at least in the more optimized storages, this isn't great. But this is one of the very rare cases when actually is good, because here we cannot do that without removing the hopper locking entirely, which you can do if you're on a server where you just hate the admins or something along those lines, or you just absolutely don't care about performance. Feel free to do that. But that's a lot of locked hoppers, and they are also going to be filled with items. So be warned. Obviously, this is vertically extendable up to the sky limit. Also, you can be a little cheeky with this, and you can make some of these taller and some of these shorter. Of course, you need to have a slightly different setup for the wires then, but you can totally do that. You could even do it from all the way up top. You would have to rotate this around, because obviously you can't send the signal through the filters, but that's also an option. So technically you don't need this part where you drop the items at all, which is pretty funny, because that kind of means you could have basically made this many years ago. Technically not with the locking. Actually, you could even do that, because you could have used something like droppers. So yeah, this was possible to be done many, many years ago. So I guess I finally found a use case for this. Pretty sad design. And why is it so powerful? Most bulk storages look something along these lines. So you would stand somewhere here, and this would be your access. And all of these double chests, this is the shittier design, this is the better design, by the way, if you are interested to know, especially in the modern versions where you can click through hoppers. All of these double chests would have the same, of course you will have to have this slightly more, I guess, are still accessible. However, they would only hold one item type. That's why you see mostly bulk storages with like 2 items per slice. This doesn't have this limit. This is still a 2-dimensional storage. You can extend this to 100 by 100 if you want to have 10,000 different items, which don't exist currently in the game. But who knows, maybe if you play on modded or something like that. So that's, in my opinion, one of the more impressive applications of these 2D storages. Not necessarily as replacing small-scale storage, because you can do that with my 1x1 multi-item sorter. But this also replaces most, if not all, of the large bulk storages. Sure, it's a little less effective, 20% less, is not insane, but I'm fairly certain that people who accept making bulk storages like these for farms probably can accept it for storage, right? Especially if it gives them several times faster accessing of the items. I added this locking tower all the way up. Not necessary, this is completely optional. You can basically stop at blocking the hoppers right here, because they would cause most of the lag. And I also made the water stream in such a way that it sends the items in circles. So when I let's deploy a few of these blocks. This is something you should do also with the original design that I showed initially, because you can have cases where someone throws in too many items at once. I forgot to open that. And now it cycles back. Obviously the lifetime of an item is only 5 minutes, so you can still overflow it. If this is not safe enough for you, you can obviously have a system where you would have a clock with a dropper injecting items, same way like here. So, I think that's all for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you consider this when building storages. Please like, share, subscribe. As usual, if you don't, I'll happily live with the notion that I have the most dense bulk storage in the world. And have a nice day.